Before we get started, please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, as well as follow on the Fourth and Goal Sports Instagram page. Without further ado, let's get started. Right off the bat, we're going to be talking about the New York Giants versus the Cowboys. If you didn't catch it, it was a tough game for the Giants, and you got 40-0 blowout. Was not a great night for Daniel Jones and Saquon. And just want to get your thoughts on that, Mr. Ron. What do you think about that game?
Yeah, I mean, when we think about week one, and I know you very, and I'm just going to commend you. You did a phenomenal job with that breakdown on that NFC East. You were pretty much dead on with a lot of your analysis. Although I was a little stretched when I saw you had us defeating the Eagles twice. I had to laugh about that, and I shared that with a couple of my buddies. We thought. That was very interesting. But I want to say this to say the first thing is week one, you got to throw these games, and take them with a grain of salt. However, make no mistake, let's be crystal clear about what happened on Sunday night. There's no cutting around it that the Giants were not prepared to take that football field. Now, I'm going to kind of put this back on you, Tyrus. Do you think that so much emphasis has been made on players not getting hurt and going through these soft practices? I don't even think I've seen my offensive line, maybe barely, for a couple of series. And when you're talking about adding new pieces, you got a rookie center that you're bringing in there. You've seen what happened to him. Fumbled that football, missnapped that ball. And then you're looking at pieces on that line that need to gel. And everyone is so sensitive about the injuries in preseason. So do you think that kind of has an effect on, all the teams out there, not just the Giants?
I would say, yeah, it affects all teams in a certain way. I think when it comes to, the preparation, it's definitely, changed over the years with the adjustments of, the way coaches approach their team and the way coaches approach individual players. Um,
Yeah.
I think also too, like when you see reports and videos of training camp, a lot of people get ahead of themselves and they see great plays. They're like, "Oh, this team's going to do amazing." You see bad plays, this team's going to do horrible. But really, when it comes to practice and training camp, those short videos, you can't take it, too deeply because when it comes to week one, it's just like a whole different atmosphere. I think that
Yeah.
I think that the Giants came unprepared, for sure, but I also think that Dallas just showed up. They showed out. They did their best. So
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things that I saw in that game that really disturbed me. I think the biggest thing is that you knew Dallas was coming, right? You seen what they did last year against this offensive line. We knew that we had to get better at protecting up front. And, a couple of weeks ago, I know we were talking about the impact of Saquon Barkley and the impact of Dan Jones. But think about this, Tyrus. Without the offensive line protecting either one of these players, they looked like ordinary guys out there. Now, I do know we rushed the ball for over 100 yards. I don't know how that happened, but it did. But it was very ineffective yards. And I think what we're learning is that the front line is so important for these high income players. Quarterbacks make their bread and butter with that protection on that line. And so does guys like Saquon Barkley. And so you begin to see why management of these programs are putting more emphasis on these lines and these other positions. And, I feel for these running backs. I don't think they're being treated fairly, but my son and I were talking, and I asked him if you had to do the draft all over again, would you take Nelson or would you take Barkley? And of course, he's stuck with Barkley, and I knew he would. But I said, no, I'm going to take that offensive lineman guy because I'm getting 10 years out of that line, and not to get ahead of myself, but you saw the type of protection that the Dallas Cowboy line gave Pollard not the other night. And let's face it, Pollard is a very solid running back. but he looked at very extraordinary the other night against the Giants because the holes were so wide open, Tyrus. I think you and I both could have ran through those holes the other night. I mean, so I don't know. I'm very disappointed in that. I'm also, I agree with you. I don't want to make too much of the preseason, but you're right. We get a little hype with these videos. We kind of get all, talking stuff. And, nobody on that line is going to touch Barkley or touch Dan Jones. He's their prolific quarterback. So these guys are barely being touched. So when you're playing a full impact sport, and you know this, Tyrus, you play football. When these guys are hitting for real, it is a big difference for what's going on out there on that practice field. So, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself about what happened with Aaron Rodgers, but as you can clearly see, things like this, when it's a true impact sport, the differences are very, very, very unfortunate, and it's real when these guys take the field. I also want to kind of say that I am a little disappointed in the new weapons that we brought in. I don't know whether we practiced properly with the wet football. We knew the rain was coming. Everybody knew it. The Eagles had to fight through it with the Patriots and things like that. So I'm not making no excuses about the wet football, but I really don't. It really didn't look like we were prepared to play in that weather.
Same thing happened with the Commanders game. Had some rain and stuff like that. And then I think too, when it came to the offensive line, the point you made with the offensive line, I think I would agree with you. I would take Nelson over Saquon looking back, and that's like no disrespect to Saquon, his talent, his work ethic, and his production. It's more of just when you look at the game and the importance of the offensive lineman, it's steadily increasing year after year. Offensive linemen are getting picked higher, they're getting paid more, specifically the left tackle. You know, the I mean, the
Absolutely.
value is just going up and up each year. So,
Yeah.
that's a big one.
Put up on the injury report on Friday. 3rd and 10. Cowboys